Hello everyone. In this video, I am here to share about smart weight concept in Selenium. So when we are talking about weights in Selenium, we have three different weights: explicit weight, implicit weight, and fluent weight. So before going into detail about the weight commands in Selenium, let us understand why do we need weight commands when we are automating our script. Let me take you with an example to understand why do we need weight commands. So consider any e-commerce website. Let it be Amazon.com. And I have already some smoke test cases written for that particular website. I'm going to run the smoke test cases today. So my smoke test cases are logically good. My application is responding well. And when I run my smoke test cases, I'm getting a test report saying all my test cases have passed. Now consider the same application on another day wherein they have a great sale. So what happens when they have introduced a great sale and a lots of discounts? There will be millions of users trying to access the same website. The traffic will be more, and your application will get slower. So in that case, in that day, when I am trying to run my smoke test cases, my smoke test cases logic is fine, but I have failure saying no such element exception, not able to interact with the element not visible on the web page. So I get such exceptions, which means my application took some time to load, my application's response was delayed. So my automation script was not able to find those elements in the application, and it was not able to perform the action. So what should we do in these cases wherein you are not able to judge the your application's response? It might be slower or it might be faster depending upon your uh, internet speed, depending upon your server speed, or depending upon the number of users accessing this application. So in that cases, we need to use wait commands wherein you first impose a wait condition, and once your web element is getting displayed on the web page, only then you perform or you interact with that web element. Also, in a modern applications, you can see many of the websites are using HTML5 and Ajax, wherein the web elements sometimes take minutes to appear, sometimes it takes only few seconds to appear. So in those cases, you can't assume how long a particular element will get displayed on your web page. So in those cases, it is necessary for you to use fluent wait, wherein you can make regular interval check for a particular element to get displayed on your web page. So at every regular interval, you make a check in your browser to find that whether your element is getting displayed or not, and only then you proceed with interacting with that particular web element. So that is the reason you require wait command in while you are automating your web application, so that your web automation script runs smoothly, even when there is a delay in your application, even when there is a slower response in your application. So your automation script will also act accordingly. According to your application speed, your automation script will also wait. Having understood how and why do we need wait commands in Selenium, let me take you to fluent wait in Selenium, and when do we use it in real time. So when do we use fluent wait commands is that, as I told, whenever you need to access your web elements as soon as they are getting displayed in your application. So some web elements will take 2 or 3 seconds to appear after the application is loaded. So as soon as they are appearing, you need to access the web application, and you need to wait for some time before they are trying to getting displayed. So in those cases, you can use fluent wait commands, wherein it checks at regular intervals for your web element to get displayed on your web application until a maximum wait time is reached. So here you set a maximum wait time and you set a polling frequency. So maximum wait time, it will wait until that maximum time, and for every polling frequency you have set. For example, if you have set for 5 seconds, then for every 5 seconds it will check whether that element is displayed. If yes, it will proceed to the next line of code, or else it will again retry for every 5 seconds until the maximum wait time is reached. So this is how fluent wait works. Your driver talks to your browser at regular time intervals, So whatever time interval you have specified, depending upon that frequency, the driver talks to your browser and it checks whether the condition is met. So that condition might be until an element is found, until an alert box is present, until a string is found. So depending upon the condition, it will wait, and if it returns true, your wait will close and your next execution will begin, which might be interacting with that particular web element. Or else it will again retry until the maximum wait time is reached. So even if it is not able to find that web element within that maximum wait time, it will throw an error saying time.exception. Now let me show you the syntax of fluent wait and how do we use it in our automation script. So basically fluent wait is a class in org.openka.selenium. So you should import this package org.openka.selenium.ui and then you can start using the class fluent wait. So fluent wait implements the interface wait. So when you are trying to access your methods inside fluent wait, you should create an object. So here you can see I have created an object wait for my class fluent wait. So inside your class fluent wait, you have 5 methods. So before going into the syntax, let me show you the methods in fluent wait. Here you can see the list of fluent wait methods with timeout, with message, polling every, ignoring. You have another method called wait, but that is not listed here in the screen. But that is you have another method called wait also. Now let me tell you what are the methods that we use when we actually use this fluent wait concept. So with timeout and polling FD are the two mandatory methods that we use because here is where we specify a maximum wait time and a polling frequency. So when you are using with timeout method, you call this method and in the parameters you pass your maximum wait time and next is your time you can specify either in seconds or minutes or milliseconds etc. And then you have polling every method. Here is where you specify your polling frequency or your regular time interval check that your driver makes. So I told that for every regular interval it makes a check, right? So that regular interval time you can specify it here. So here first parameter is the duration, second parameter is the time limit. And then these are with message and ignoring are the two optional methods. You can include with message method and inside the parameters you can just put in any message. So whenever a timeout is occurring, which means whenever the maximum wait time is reached and it is not able to find an element, this message will be returned to the user in the console. And ignoring method is the method that we use to ignore all kinds of exceptions that happens when it is trying to find an element. So for example, I am telling to find an element that is appearing after some 10 seconds, but my polling time is 5 seconds. So for the first 5 seconds it will try to find, but the element will not be there because it is going to appear only after 10 seconds. So it will throw an exception saying element not for exception. So I am just can just include an exception here saying don't throw any exception. Just continue with the looping again and again until you find an element. So you can add any exceptions, element not found, alert not present, or if you're not sure of the exception subclass subtype of the class, you can mention the main class exception itself, exception subclass. So these are the 4 methods that you use. And then you have another method called wait dot. You have another method called until. So until is the method wherein you impose the condition until here you can impose the condition using a function or using a predicate. So this is your until method. Here you can impose your condition using a function or you can impose a condition using a predicate. So when you are imposing the condition using a predicate, the condition should return only a boolean value. But when you are doing it with a function, it can return either a boolean value or a web element or a string. So this I will show you in detail in further slides. So before that, let me take you to the syntax. Now just understand the different wait methods. Okay, so now I told that I created an object called wait, and now I'm going to specify my maximum wait time and then also my polling frequency. So here I call the method called with timeout. So here with timeout is specifying my maximum wait time, which is nothing but 30 seconds, and then polling every is my polling frequency, wherein I say retry every 5 seconds. And then I have included another method called ignoring, wherein I'm saying ignore no such element exception, because for the first time it might not be able to find an element. So don't throw any no such element exception. Just continue with the wait. And then I call the method called wait.until. I told that inside until method we impose a condition. So in this example, I have imposed a condition using a function. So here I created a function, and inside that I have a method. Inside the method, I am returning a web element. So driver.find element by id few is my web element, and I'm returning my web element. So how will this actually work? What will happen when I include this in my automation script? It waits until this element with ID is found. If it is found, the loop will be exited and the next line of execution will continue. If it is not able to find this driver or find element by ID, then it will retry for another 5 seconds, and it will continue the loop until it is able to find this particular element. So for the first 5 seconds it will wait, and then go to wait.until and verify whether it is returning true, which means it's returning the web element. If the web element is null, again it will wait for 5 seconds, and it will go and check if the web element is found. Again, if it is null, it will continue until and unless it returns the web element, or if it's not returning the web element at all, then it will wait until the whole timeout is hit. Okay, this is how prevent wait works. Now let me show you how do we impose the condition using a function and then using a predicate. Let me take you with an example. Now here you can see that I have created a web page, and I have few elements that are getting displayed in my web page after few seconds. So my test case is going to be I need to click on new element 2 that is getting displayed after few seconds, and when I click on that it is getting navigated to google.com, and I need to assert whether google.com is getting opened, and then I close my browser. So this is going to be my test case. So before accessing this new element 2, you can see that it is taking some time to appear. So which means that I need to wait for few seconds, only then I can click on this particular element. So how am I going to handle that wait? I'm going to handle it using fluent wait. So let me show you how I'm going to do it. So here, as I told, I created an object from my fluent wait class, and using that object, I have specified my maximum wait time as 2 minutes. With using the with timeout method, I specified my maximum wait time as 2 minutes, and my polling frequency is nothing but my regular time interval check as 500 milliseconds. And then I've also used another method called ignoring, where I told ignore exception saying no such element exception, because for the first few seconds it will not be able to find that element. So don't throw any exception saying not able to find that element. So ignore such exceptions. If you're not sure of your exception name, then you can just mention the main exception class name. So now so now I've specified my maximum wait time and my polling frequency. Next, I need to impose my condition. So here I am going to impose the condition using a function. So how do we impose a condition? We impose a condition using a method called until. So using the object wait, I call the method until, and I pass my condition inside it here. So here, since I told I'm going to impose it using a function, I created a function sample, and inside the function I have a method called apply. So I told that in a function you can return a web element, you can return a boolean, you can return a string and all. So in this case I'm going to return a web element. So my method's return type is also a web element. So here I am capturing that web element driver.find by xpath, and then storing it in a variable called element, and then returning that element. That's it. So I'm getting that element and returning it. So what will happen when I run this piece of code? First, for the first 500 milliseconds, it will wait, and it will read my maximum wait time. So for the first 500 milliseconds, once it is hit, it will then go to wait.until, and it will read the condition inside sample. So this is my condition inside sample. Get the web element and return it. So for the first few seconds, the web element will be null. So it will be null, and hence it will again wait for another 500 milliseconds. So this will continue until and unless this is not null. So once this is not null, it will return that element and then my loop will close. So once the loop closes, it then continues to my next line of code, which is nothing but clicking that element and asserting whether Google is getting opened, and then it closes my browser. So this is how it will work. So let me run and show it to you so it will be clearer. So here my Chrome got open, application got open. Now after few seconds, new element 2 will get displayed. Yeah, now new element 2 got displayed, it is invoked and it is navigated to google.com. Now it should assert and close the driver. Yes, it's completed. Now here in the console you can see that for the first 500 milliseconds it was waiting and it was checking for the object. It returned null. Okay, and hence again for the next 500 milliseconds it continued for many instances, and only after some 10 to 12 instances it was able to find that particular object. So once my element was not null, it printed this particular statement and then it returned my element. Once my element is returned, the loop got ended, and then it clicked on the new element. So once that element is clicked, next it asserted, right? Next it asserted and my driver got closed. So this is what happened when I ran it. It checked for that object continuously until the object is found for every regular interval. So let me take you with an example of imposing the condition of the predicate now. Now my test case is going to be, here you can see a button called observe me change. So when I'm loading the page, the color of the button is color of the text inside the button is orange and then it is converting to pink. So let me load it again, orange and then it is pink. So my test case is going to be, wait until the color is changing to pink. Once it is changing to pink, just close the driver or close my browser. So this change in color, I need to wait for some time. So how am I going to do it? Let me show you. So as we saw in previous example, here I've mentioned my maximum wait time 2 minutes. My polling frequency is 500 milliseconds. Okay, so which means for every 500 milliseconds, it will loop over and check. And inside my until, I'm going to impose my condition. So here I told that I'm going to impose my condition using a predicate. So when I'm using it as a predicate, I can only return a boolean value. So here inside my method, I am reading my web element. So I am reading my web element using its ID dynamic color. So this is my web element. It has an ID called dynamic color, and for that web element I'm getting the CSS value color. So here this will return the RGBA value of this color in my button web element. So here if that color is equal to pink, so I'm telling if that color is equal to pink, so this is the RGBA of pink. If that is equal to pink, return true or else return false. So in the beginning, for the first few seconds, it will be in orange. So and only after that it is changing to pink. So for the first few seconds, the color will be orange, and then this RGBA code will not match this and it will return false. So again it will loop over and wait for another 500 milliseconds. So this will continue until and unless the color changes, and once the color changes it will return true. So once true is returned, this loop will end and then it will close my driver, which is nothing but the next line of execution. Okay, so let me run this and show you now. So here you can see that my web page is getting loaded from orange to pink. Now it is changed. So now in the console you can see for the first time it was trying to find, but the color was orange. So this is the RGBA code for orange. So for the next time also it tried for after 500 milliseconds. So this continued for some 3 to 4 times, and then only for the 6th time it was able to find that the color has changed to pink. So once that color has changed to pink, it returned true, and then what happened? It came out of the loop and it closed the browser. So this is how you handle a condition imposing a condition using a predicate. So when you are trying to impose a condition using a predicate, you can only return a boolean value, either true or false. When you are going to return it as a when you're going to import a condition as a function, you can return a string, you can return a web element as well as a boolean value. Okay, so depending upon your test case necessity, you can either import a condition using a function or as a predicate. So now I think you had an understanding that it's always better to use fluent wait commands. Reason being, this wait tries to find the web element repeatedly at regular intervals in your web page or until the maximum timeout is reached. So that is a very good concept because you can't judge a web element's appearance in your web page. So you can always use fluent wait, which makes regular interval check in your web page, and as soon as it is getting displayed, it will try and capture the web element and it will interact with that web element immediately. So fluent wait is the most commonly used wait by automation testers because it improves your script performance, it improves your automation speed efficiently. So that is the reason they are using fluent wait most widely. And there are other weights also, as I said, explicit and implicit weight. So when talking about implicit weight, it is a kind of default weight. You just set a default weight and it will wait for that time. In explicit weight is something similar to fluent weight wherein you specify a maximum wait time. But here you can't loop for every polling frequency. You can just set the maximum wait time and you can impose a condition. That's it. So it will not hit and check for every regular interval. So that is the difference between fluent weight and explicit weight. So depending upon your test case, again, you can use either fluent weight or explicit weight. Always advisable to use fluent weight or explicit weight. Implicit weight is not really advisable. The reason being it makes your execution process slower because you're putting a default wait time. If your application is faster, even if your application is faster, it will wait for that default wait time and only then it will proceed. So always depending upon your application speed, your automation speed should also match with that. Only then your automation script becomes more efficient and it responds well. That is the reason we are using fluent wait or explicit wait in recent times. I hope you had a very good understanding of how do we use fluent wait. Thank you. Have a good day.